Hey everyone, this is Katie Sweetman with Powering Astrology, and this is your another live look at the astrology of November 16th through 22nd, 2020. So thank you all for joining me again for another live look at the astrology. I know some of you sort of, we'll say, wake up in Australia. You're joining me every Monday to look at how do we work with the planets? How do we interact with the astrology? Because something you'll hear me say over and over again is that the astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%. So how do we best align ourselves with what the planets are asking of us? So we gather every week to sort of see what the unfolding story is. And I know some of you who have been listening to me for a while, you know that I go back in time a little bit because astrology is one of those things that makes sense in hindsight. What we experience on a day-to-day basis or even a month-to-month basis is not these standalone events. It sort of connects us to different moments in time. So, even as I record this on November 16th, 2020, we're sort of in the last 4 weeks of a bigger story. Got 4 more weeks of Saturn in Capricorn. And if you've been listening, you will know that Saturn has been in the sign of Capricorn since the start of 2018. Why am I focusing on Saturn? Well, Saturn is this planet that sort of sets the time, it sets the framework for what's going on in the world, what's going on in our world. And we all had a shift at the very beginning of 2018. So there's been a certain part of our life that we've been working on in the next 4 weeks, or sort of the last 4 weeks, that Saturn will be in Capricorn for another 30 years. Yes, 30 years. So there's something that we are wrapping up this week, next week, week after. There's something that we are hopefully crystallizing, really sort of getting to the heart of what we've been learning over the last 3 years. And I'm telling everybody, you have your Saturn and Capricorn exit interview. You're sit down with HR in the beginning of December. And what's Saturn going to say? How did you do on your lessons? And for all of us, Saturn and Capricorn, since the very start of 2018, the very end of 2017, has been a time to learn to create new structures, new boundaries, new responsibilities, to push ourselves further. But sort of the thing about 2020 is that 2020 was always going to be the year that brought us back to something that began in 2008. And 2008, 2009, were the years where we started to do a lot of deep psychic emotional excavation. And because we have free will, because we have, that's the 50% part, that's the you part, how much have we been doing? How much have we used this time to the best of its ability? So I think 2020 was the year where it was like, all right, if you've only done this much, well, we got to really work hard in 2020 to open up space even more. So I'll be talking about Saturn and Capricorn over in the next few weeks, as we get closer to Saturn's arrival in Aquarius on December 17th. And to be honest, I have to sit down with the 2021 astrology. I've barely peeked into next year. It's just been so busy. But yeah, there are going to be some big shifts as we go into the end of this year and go into the beginning of 2021. That said, I will reintroduce myself. My name is Katie Sweetman. I'm an astrologer and psychic medium here in Brooklyn, New York, and I've been doing my work under the name Empowering Astrology since 2010. So kind of crazy to believe that's been over a decade at this point for me. God, I'm suddenly tongue-tied. Tomorrow's my birthday, so this is sort of like my birthday week, my birthday broadcast. I was thinking about putting on a fancy dress, because who am I going to put on a fancy dress for these days in Corona time? So you are all my birthday party tonight. Do let me know where you are watching from. Like I have said, week in, week out. I can't travel, but I can kind of travel vicariously through you. I'm a Scorpio with Sag rising. I have Mars in Sagittarius, so Mercury in Sagittarius. I'm not really traveling much these days, just traveling around my apartment. But yeah, I'm here in New York City. Like I said, if I could travel, I'd be, let's say, on a plane to Europe this time of year. But alas, we'll have to all dream. I just see somebody had her birthday yesterday. Yes, it's a little Scorpio party this week. In fact, we are the last week of Scorpio season. This is like a little bit of a technical point. There's something called decans or decans in astrology. It's one of those words that I don't know if I'm pronouncing right, and I'm a professional astrologer, allegedly. You have these 3 sections of every sign, and those sections have planets that are specially ruled. What's called by the decan or decan. And somebody once told me that the last 10 degrees of Scorpio was the most Scorpio of all the sign. I think that's also because of the precession of the equinox. I'm really getting nerdy today. And the last decan of astrology, I think, is ruled by the moon because of Cancer. Anyway, I'm kind of veering off on a tangent. But yes, it's the last week of Scorpio season. And it's not just the last week of Scorpio season, but it's the last, we're sort of coming off of a Scorpio New Moon as I record this. So we had a Scorpio New Moon. We had it yesterday, November 15th, in the early morning, at least here in New York City. And when we step into a new moon invariably is going to be sequentially in each zodiac sign. Sometimes this changes during the summer. But when we had a Libra new moon back on October 16th, we had a Scorpio new moon November 15th. It means the sun and the moon come together in a zodiac sign, and they came together in Scorpio. When we enter a new moon, we're not just in a lunar month, but we're in a 4-week arc of time where we're living life through that archetype. And what is Scorpio? Scorpio has a little bit of a reputation in astrology. When you're learning astrology, you're like, oh, it's the sign of sex and death and taxes and, Halloween and creepy crawlies. Well, it's more than that. And I do tell people, in the zodiac, which is the wheel of life, there has to be a place for death and rebirth. And Scorpio is a sign that we all have to go through. And if you are scratching your head and you're saying, well, I don't have anything in Scorpio. Well, Scorpio is somewhere in your chart. You have all 12 signs in your astrology chart. You just might have your sun in Virgo, for example. But Scorpio is somewhere in your chart, which means there's some place in your life that you meet these energies of death and rebirth, these energies of transformation, these energies of intimacy, vulnerability, power, control. Scorpio gives us this psychic pressure to change. Scorpio's opposite sign is Taurus, and this is not a bad thing, but it's a sign that wants everything to stay the same. It's a sign that teaches us about the stability and security of life, so much that we can get a home, put down roots, plant some seeds, grow crops, harvest food, that sort of a thing. And that's we need that. But Scorpio teaches us that things do have endings, that life has endings, that we can't always count on things to be the same. So here in the Northeast of the United States, at least, the leaves are starting to fall, the weather is getting cold. So it's on a physical level, it's reminding us that things aren't going to last forever, that there's a natural life cycle. So we can't collectively all stay in Taurus. We all have to go through at different points in our life, or sometimes different points in the year or different points in the month, where we get into this energy of renewal. We need that. And sometimes we are in the energy of Scorpio for a much longer time. If you were born with Pluto in Scorpio, for example, you were born 83, 84 till 1995 approximately. So you were born with Pluto in Scorpio. Pluto was in Scorpio, I think, for like 11, 12 years. Or Saturn in Scorpio. We had Saturn in Scorpio from 2012 until 2015. So there are times when we are doing deeper collective work through Scorpio. But here we are, Scorpio season. So it's a lunar month, so next 4 weeks, we're living through the archetype of Scorpio. What makes you uncomfortable? What is it? Intimacy? Is it opening up to somebody? Is it telling somebody about how you really feel? Is it that feeling in the pit of your stomach? Is it things that scare you? And there is a sense of we have to sort of face ourselves. We have to face our fears. We have to get uncomfortable because that process, it changes us. It's like an alchemy, and maybe it sounds cheesy, but it's that pressure that turns something from one state to another, whether it's coal to diamond, lead to gold. So if any of you have ever been through a really difficult experience, like a crisis, and you know how that energy transforms you for better or for worse, and hopefully for better. But when we meet that energy, it makes us grow. It makes us step up. It makes us know who we really are and what we're not. And Scorpio is very blunt in that way. It strips away the things that actually don't really matter. We come out of Libra. Libra is all about the niceties and pleasantries of life, relationships, negotiation, connection. But then when you get into Scorpio, things are real and things are raw. So we're even though we are at the end of Scorpio season, we're bringing Scorpio even into December, because the lunar month does not end until December 14th of 2020. So over the coming 4 weeks, you have to examine yourself. You have to look at how you open yourself up, whether it's with a friend, whether it's with a lover, whether it's in something else. You have to bare your soul. Scorpio is a very psychologically driven sign, so maybe it's a great season to get some psychological help, get a therapist, get a counselor, get the emotional support that you need so that you can go. There's an energy of descent and ascent in Scorpio. Scorpio, its 8th sign is Gemini, and Gemini teaches us about the duality of life. Scorpio is the 8th sign, and the 8th sign of Scorpio is Gemini. I was telling this to a Gemini client earlier, how Scorpio and Gemini actually have more in common than people realize. So Scorpio teaches us about the duality of life, light and dark, up and down, left, right, in and out, death and rebirth. So we're sort of juggling the duality of life this month, which is interesting and probably not coincidental that 2 weeks from now we have a Gemini full moon. And this full moon will be a lunar eclipse. It'll be the first eclipse in a series of 2. And these are the first eclipses that we are having since June and July, because as you may or may not know, eclipses happen every 6 months. So as we go into this lunar month, I call it the great stage, meaning we're sort of looking at our lives like we're watching something. We're watching something unfold. We're watching a drama unfold. And when we sort of get into eclipse season, which I think officially we can say we're in eclipse season, we have the sense that the curtain is coming down on one act and the curtain is coming up on another. So it may mean that come, let's say, November 30th, when we have a lunar eclipse in Gemini, what is on the other side of this curtain is a very different act. It's a very different scene. It's a very different characters than what we've been experiencing since June and July. Because we're in this sort of Scorpio, Gemini energy that's going on, what's on the other side might make us feel uncomfortable. And I mean that in the best possible way. What's on the other side might have to do with intimacy, vulnerability, or Gemini choices, information, ideas. As I record this, Mercury right now is in Scorpio. Mercury will be in Scorpio even during the Gemini lunar eclipse. So there's a sense of fact-finding. Mercury in Scorpio is the investigator. And if you have Mercury in Scorpio, it's very obsessive. It has to get to the bottom of things. So we're sort of getting to the bottom of things in our lives, maybe collectively. Over the coming weeks, we are discovering things about ourselves. Scorpio is very psychological, so it could be hidden motivations, the hidden motivations behind even our own choices. Maybe it's looking at the duality within ourselves or the duality within our relationship. What's on the other side? So this isn't just any new moon. This isn't just any lunar month. It's a lunar month that's punctuated by a lunar eclipse. So as you may remember, eclipse season makes things very interesting. It's sort of the drama ratchets it up, and I think we've already been feeling this anyway, so I don't think I'm saying anything that's new information, but that's sort of where we're at as we go into the beginning of the week. And something I was kind of touching on earlier when I was talking about Saturn and I almost said Saturn and Scorpio, Saturn and Capricorn, is that there's these 3 planets in the sky right now, Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, that have been in Capricorn. Well, at least Jupiter has been in Capricorn since last December. Saturn's been in Capricorn for almost 3 years, Pluto 2008. But these 3 planets together in 2020, I've been calling it 2020 energy. And as we start the week, Venus right now is in Libra. Venus has been in Libra, I think, for a few weeks right now. But it's coming up to the end of Libra this week. And as it does so, it's making something called squares to Jupiter and to Pluto. It's doing squares to Jupiter and Pluto today, November 16th. It'll make a square to Saturn on November 19th. Venus is the planet of relationships, love, beauty, value, and side note, and maybe this is my background in IT and technology, I always think of the planets in terms of code. It's these archetypical codes of creation. So yeah, we can point to Venus in the sky and say Venus is here and Venus is doing that, but it's really helping us to connect to an archetypical energy around that helps us to understand relationships, connection, socialization, negotiation. So Venus right now is in the sky. It's coming up to this little bit of a tricky spot as it makes what's called a square to Pluto and Jupiter. Squares are just what's called a 90-degree angle. Squares are friction. So right now there may be friction in a relationship. Right now there might be a need for negotiation, powerful negotiation. Pluto's involved, Jupiter is involved. Maybe there's something that we are not seeing, but because Venus is also what's called behind the sun. It's in the 12th house of the sun right now, but Venus also rules Taurus, and Taurus is Scorpio's relationship sign. So we're having to maybe see something that we haven't been noticing about a relationship. And I mean all relationships. Whenever I talk about relationship, I do mean all relationships. So see what's coming up. I mean, when Venus and Pluto make connections with each other, there's a sense that we're looking at the shadow side of love. I love you so much that pain, abuse, and hurt. But how can love really be about pain, abuse, and hurt? Power and control. Well, it can't really be love if it's about power and control. So maybe a shadow issue is coming up for you this week, something between you and a partner, something between you and a friend or a colleague, something that you're not, sort of that shadow side of relationship that you're having to negotiate and to figure out what is your self-worth, what is your currency, what is your power. And then later this week, when Venus makes a square to Saturn on November 19th, Saturn is sort of the checkpoint. You have to have your paperwork in order. You have to, everything has to be sort of aligned and balanced, and you doing the right thing. Otherwise, it doesn't pass Saturn's checks. So there might be a relationship that's a little hairy this week, but Saturn is sort of making us set some boundaries this week, set some healthy boundaries this week, or define what two people are doing. Is this a relationship? Is this not a relationship? Is this working? Is this not working? How do we make this work? How do we negotiate so this, is even and balanced? And since we're in Scorpio season, we may be talking about Mercury and Scorpio, the things that we don't normally talk about in polite company, because there's a sense of needing to reveal the things that are hidden while the sun is in Scorpio. I haven't even talked about how Mars this week is officially direct. It's officially direct as of November 13th, so it's been a few days. But Mars is really strong in Aries, and it's really strong when it's what's called stationed direct. In fact, if you look in the sky right now, I don't really know about right now, but at least in the evening sky here in New York when it's clear, Mars is really red. It's really visible in the sky. And if you're thinking, wow, you can see planets in the skies of New York, yeah, you can see planets in the skies of New York. All of 2020, I've been watching Jupiter and Saturn get closer and closer in the sky. That's going to happen later this year. But Mars is really strong right now. Mars is in Aries. So something that I was talking about in my update today is that we need to be a little mindful of our Mars. What's our Mars? Well, Mars is an archetype about power and control and forward movement and taking action and courage and bravery. Those are the good side of Mars. I was telling somebody earlier today, like every planet, every sign has two sides. It has the side that helps, the side that creates, and the side that doesn't help. So Mars on its other side can be aggressive. It can be pointed. It can be sharp. It can be combative. It can be competitive, which competition is not necessarily a bad thing, but it being competitive in the not so helpful way, shall I say. So we need to pay attention to our Mars right now. How are we using our Mars? And since Mars is what's called the ruler of Scorpio, we want to make sure that we don't have all this kind of suppressed anger bubbling up. We're not getting really impatient or combative. Mars is also in the part of Scorpio's chart that talks about work. It talks about overwork. Scorpio has a little bit of a tendency of being workaholic. That's because Mars and Aries rules what's called the sixth house, the sixth room of Scorpio's house. So maybe we're sort of seeing where we all are overworking right now, and we have to make some changes in how we overwork. Or maybe we need more physical exercise. Mars is a very physical planet, so if you feel restless this week, if you feel combative, how can you channel that positively with, some sort of physical exercise? Going to the gym, going for a walk, something else. Mars in this part of the chart, it's about perfection, it's about cleanliness. Maybe we just need to take all this energy and clean things out. Since it's Scorpio, maybe it's a psychological cleanse, maybe it's an emotional cleanse, maybe it's a psychic release. Mars has been retrograde for 2 months, so things have been a bit pent up. As we go later this week, like I said, it's the last stretch of Scorpio season, but on November 21st, the sun goes into Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is the 9th sign of the zodiac, and happy early birthday, Sagittarius. The 9th sign of the zodiac, it's obviously the one that follows Scorpio. So we've gone through the sort of the intensities of Scorpio season, the deep, dark lessons, and what does it all mean? What's the meaning of life? What sort of wisdom did we gain? I often tell people that the wisdom that Sagittarius is so famous for, it was hard won. It was earned through going through Scorpio. You sort of need the pressure of life so that you can understand, the world, understand yourself, have that consciousness and self-awareness. Sagittarius, as the 9th sign of the zodiac, it's also about truth. It's higher education. It's travel, especially long distance or foreign travel. It's ruled by Jupiter, Sagittarius is what's called the laws of man, the wisdom of man, meaning I know something because I was taught it. It's in a book. I went to college. I went to university. Somebody taught me this. That's my truth. The other side of Jupiter, which is Pisces, because Pisces is the other side of Sagittarius. It's like, I know it because I feel it. I've integrated it. It's a subjective truth, but Sagittarius is objective truth. That said, Sagittarius is a sign that's known for having a lot of opinions. So maybe we're all going to have a lot of opinions going into next week, especially as we come up to a Sagittarius solar eclipse on December 14th. But here's the other side of things. The south node of the moon right now is in Sagittarius, so we all need to be just checking ourselves first, because with the south node of the moon in Sagittarius, it's easy to shoot our mouth off. It's easy to think that we are absolutely correct. I don't know, maybe we are, but we need to make sure, because with the south node of the moon, we can kind of get in that Sagittarius trap. So we absolutely think we're right. We will go to the nines. We will fight our way. But then we sort of dig ourselves, that ditch that Sagittarius can get itself into. So that's sort of the energy that's starting to percolate. I say that right in English, percolate, as we go into the end of this week. On the same day, November 21st, 2020, Venus goes into Scorpio. So we're starting to see there's a little bit of overlap with... Sorry, I'm seeing Bridget's little winky face because I know she's Sagittarius. There's a little bit of an overlap with Scorpio and Sagittarius energies. So Venus in Scorpio, Venus is traditionally not at home in Scorpio. We would say in astrology it's in its detriment. That's just a classical way of looking at the order and structure of the planets, and there are some signs that some planets do better in and some signs that planets do not do better. It just means that Venus, which is a planet that's about negotiation, balance, equity, fairness, value, is having to do that in a sign that is not normally its home. Scorpio is what's called a Mars ruled sign, so that Venus now has to sort of put on the clothes of Mars. So this is a Venus that is known for love and beauty, charm, but through the Scorpio lens. It's seduction, it's sexual, it's powerful. Love is a currency. Sex is a currency, relationships is a currency. It's a give and take. It's the darker side is that it's manipulative, and it's power, it's control and obsession, because Scorpio has a dark side. But I think the positive side of Venus and Scorpio is relationships and love that have an absolute ironclad trust. You can go to the ends of the earth with somebody. You know you can trust somebody. They have your back. And it's when Venus is in Scorpio. I know because I have Venus in Scorpio. When Venus is in Scorpio, you need somebody, like relationships have to be through this lens of like, I need to know you. I need to know you like on the level of your soul. Because when Venus is in Scorpio, it's not the surface niceties of Libra, the other sign that it's ruled by. It's in a sign that's like, show me your bleeding heart so I actually can trust you. Like, tell me your secrets. Let's stay up till 4 a.m. Like, I'm going to turn into an interrogator. No, I've never done this ever in my life. But it's like, I need to kind of have that really deep and powerful connection. I just think the work that we all have to do while Venus is in Scorpio into the beginning of January. Is that right? Yeah, the beginning of January. Wow. Time's flying. It's like, what year is it? What day is it? Venus is in Scorpio, and we're going to have this obviously until beginning of January, that we are looking at relationships with a very sharp eye. And some, we might be seeing where there are some problematic connections. We might be seeing where we can go deeper with a partner. We might be seeing where we need to work on intimacy and intimate connection with a partner, works. Venus in Scorpio, it kind of wants to consume a lover in the best possible way, of course. But that is the astrology this week. And, like I said, we're officially, I'm going to call it, we're officially in eclipse season. So life is sort of going to get interesting. And I did talk about this, so wasn't the last one, maybe it was the week before. I kind of gave us a little bit of a preview of eclipse season for the different signs, but these upcoming eclipses are going to be in Gemini and Sagittarius. So if you are a Gemini or Sagittarius, or have those two signs rising, or have important planets in those signs, or by extension, you are a Pisces or a Virgo, life is sort of the wheel of life. The great stage of life is preparing for the next act. So hold on to your hats, and all you have to do is go back and look at 2011, 2012, a little bit of 2013 to sort of see a thread of time that is connected to what's happening right now. Doesn't mean it's going to be carbon copy, of course not. But eclipses, they have these 18, 19-year cycles. The 9-year halfway mark is like the half cycle. So anyway, that is the astrology of this week, November 16th to November 22nd, 2020. My name again is Katie Sweetman, and this is Empowering Astrology. You can follow me on Facebook, Empowering Astrology, Instagram, Twitter. For those that are watching the replay, thank you so much. Do drop a line, say hello, tell me where you're watching from. I know that I can see some familiar faces in the chat as we've been doing this live. And you can go to my website, empoweringastrology.com. You can book a session. You can sign up for my newsletter. All this is, of course, in the show notes. But thank you all for celebrating my early birthday with me. Tomorrow is my 42nd birthday. It's super weird. It's a very strange year, but good things are happening, I'm sure. So anyway, do take care, be well, be safe, and I will see you all next week. Bye.